You probably clicked on this video wondering, is this a joke? Is he serious? This is a serious video, and I'm here to tell you the story behind why I think I'm not a good person. By the way, this is not a pity video at all. You shouldn't feel bad for me. I don't want to see people in the comments like, oh my gosh, dude, you're actually not a bad person. That's not what this video is for. And it really all starts from my childhood. I just believe that I've committed just as many, if not more, sins than the next man. And these sins that I speak of, they're not physical acts or like actual acts that I did to other people that directly harmed them. It's more desires and feelings that I've had in my heart and in my head, right? Whether that be something like anger or whether that be something like lust or, whatever it is. My biggest issue that I've had that's always been true, and the vast majority of people in my life have always said this, is that I am truly selfish to my core. I always put my needs above others, and I understand that part of that is human nature, but it really does go beyond that. I have no issue helping others, but and I like helping others, but it's not in an altruistic way like, oh, I want to like cause good onto my community. It's more so like, well, when I help others, it makes me feel good about myself, And this has been scientifically proven. Your brain produces more endorphins and serotonin, among other chemicals that make your mood go up. But from something like school to sports to friendships, everything, I've realized that I am very much like self optimizing. And I don't necessarily go out and do bad things to people, but it's something like a desire in my heart. I remember growing up, even when I was very little, like probably too little to have these type of emotions, I would wish bad luck upon people that I viewed as, competition, whether that be in sports or, if I just didn't like a person in general because they didn't treat me right. I would wish, not like physical harm or anything like that, but like, if it was a sports match, I would wish that they would strike out or like stuff like that. And it sort of started to bleed into other aspects of my life where I just wanted, because my ego has always been very big, something that I'm trying to work on, but I just didn't want people to succeed where I wasn't succeeding, because that made me feel bad about myself. And I make a lot of videos on social media talking about how other people do that. And the reason that I make those videos is because I've dealt with that issue for most of my life. And as a Christian, it says in the Bible, there are many passages where Jesus says, you may not have committed adultery in like physically, but you have in your heart. Or you may not have committed murder physically, but you've committed hatred in your heart. And so I kind of keep that same philosophy about everything, where sometimes, although you're not actually doing something, you have negative intentions, and I think by proxy, bad morals. And over the past, like I would say since this past summer, it's something that I've really tried to dial in and get better at. And I'm trying to get better every day. Once again, this is not asking for pity, but it seems very difficult because it almost seems innate to who I am. And so I cannot stand people that act morally righteous, and I personally won't do that. That's why I think, like, a lot of times people in the comments are sort of like, oh man, I really like the videos and all this stuff. I have people that DM me every day, dude, you're like, I have people saying that I'm saving their life, or that like I've completely changed their life. And I just want to say, you shouldn't look up to me. I'm flawed, okay? You need to look up to the righteous man. In my opinion, that's Jesus. But whoever you may think as, a good figure, that's who you should look up to, not some random 22-year-old loser who lives in his parents' basement and just happens to make some videos online, okay? You need to start prioritizing being better. That's what I'm trying to do. It's so hard because it seems like a snowball, a lot of these things. So once it starts, it only gets worse. For example, an issue that I've dealt with a lot, and it's oh my gosh, it's so corny to admit, but I've dealt with lust. And I'm not talking about pornography. I'm just talking about, like, in general, when I go about my day, just having bad thoughts, or like, you know, like um promiscuous ideology to some extent. I mean, a lot of people, I will admit, have it a lot worse than me, but like if I go to the gym and I see a girl that I like, sometimes the thoughts slip, and I gotta sit there and just like every time I'm just like telling myself, I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like, this is just embarrassing. That's like the dialogue that goes into my head. um and the reason that I'm saying that I think I'm a bad person is because these things happen naturally to me. You know, they're just like in my head. They're just like natural thought, boom, pops into my head. And it's almost like I'm the observer of my thoughts as opposed to the actual creator of my thoughts. I don't know, I feel like some people might actually relate to that. But once again, it starts to infect everything. So when you have these certain mindsets, it becomes an ideology, which then leads to your actions. And although, you know, I'm not actually taking any drastic actions, it's like the small things behind the scenes where, you know, I might lack integrity. You know, I'm like the guy that would, like, if there was candy on the table at school and then everyone was out of the classroom, you know, I'd take one. That's kind of like the guy that I am. Now, I would never do anything, once again, I want to make this clear, that would actually harm another human. That is one thing that I won't do. But probably one of the dumbest things that one of the biggest copes that people will do is like, oh, well, you know, other people my age are also like that, or other people in the world. Like, have you seen the Epstein files? Like, there's so much worse stuff that people are doing. That's just a terrible way to live your life, is to compare. Because you're always, it's a losing game. There's always going to be people that are doing better than you, so comparing to people on that front is terrible. And then there's always going to be people that are doing worse things than you, so in terms of like how you feel morally, like your moral righteousness, you could always just look to people that are doing worse things than you. That's a terrible way to live your life. Don't be that guy. And that's what I refuse to do. That's part of the reason why I'm making this video, is because I am flawed, and, you know, there's a lot of blood on my hands. And, you know, there's a million other things that I can go into, but I think you guys get the overall gist of it. It seems like a never-ending game. You just got to continue to fight. These earthly desires are terrible. So Plato talks about 3 parts of the human soul: reason, will, and appetite. And so, you know, reason is the desire for it guides you to truth and knowledge. Will is essentially courage, and it's your like ambition to go and do things. And then appetite is the scary one, in which you have these bodily desires of the flesh, if you will. Now, these desires, if left unchecked by your spirit, which is spirit and will, they're like, both of those are the same thing, will destroy you. So the way Plato looked at it was that yeah, your spirit would keep in check the appetite, and if basically people that become tyrants, or people that always act out of selfish desire, are the ones that let the appetite rule over the other two. But if you can find a harmony, a balance between all 3, that is when you can be a just man. That is when you can be your happiest. And to some extent, I agree, although I don't necessarily agree with 3 parts of the soul. I like the analogy, if you will. You need to be able to contain your appetite. And the more that you let your appetite control you, the worse of a person you are. And so it's a threshold, and I'm basically trying to lower that threshold, if that makes sense. But those are just my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching.